On a day filled with interesting news from around the world of sports, the Pac-12 yesterday announced that the conference will begin allowing voluntary in-person workouts for all sports starting on June 15th, as long as local governments and universities allow the student athletes to return to campuses. Here's the commissioner, Larry Scott, telling Paul Feinbaum he's hopeful they'll be able to start on time.
We have time, which is an asset in this case. We have till the end of June, early July, I think, before we have to decide if we're moving forward with football training camp as the lead-up on the glide path to the start of the college football season. So I'd say right now I'm cautiously optimistic that not only will all Pac-12 schools be there, but the whole country together will be up to move forward and start college football on time.
Here's Laura Rutledge with us this morning, and Danny's here as well. Laura, I feel like 2 weeks ago or thereabouts, we were almost writing off the Pac-12 for the season. And here are comments from the commissioner that are diametrically opposed to that. Sort of makes me wonder just how much pressure are people like him under right now to make sure football is played if it can be?
Yeah, I think these conference commissioners, especially the Power 5 conference commissioners, are under a lot of pressure. But you're right. A couple of weeks ago, this narrative was completely different around the Pac-12 schools. And I think that's because a lot of people misinterpreted what came out about Cal State schools not having students on campus and just automatically assumed that that included the Pac-12. I had spoken to people affiliated with the Pac-12 at the time who said, well, wait a second, we haven't made any of these decisions and we are still proceeding full force as if we are going to have football in the fall if it's possible. And so I think there was a lot of misinformation around that. And either way, the Pac-12 is entering another unique opportunity here. They absolutely, as it relates to the pressure that you're talking about, do not want to miss out on an opportunity to try and keep up with everybody else around the country as long as it's safe. They've got a great season ahead of them. Keaton Slovis, the USC quarterback, is one I'm really excited about. I think there's a lot of football that they're excited about if they can go ahead and get this thing up and running.
Okay, I want to ask you one other thing, and then, Dan, I'll get you in on that, because Lincoln Riley, the coach of Oklahoma, who joined us on this show not long ago, Laura, has been very vocal and maybe the most cautious high-profile coach that we've heard from. But they made an announcement yesterday that I know you thought was very significant. Why was that so important?
Yeah, they announced that they're going to have their student athletes back on campus or allow them to come back for the voluntary workouts and for everything that they have in place July 1st. And, there was a quote in there from Lincoln Riley talking about how important it is to be cautious through all this. He's maintained that as well. But one of the things that really stuck out to me, Greeny, is we've tried to find answers of what exactly happens when a player or a staff member or somebody tests positive for COVID-19. And what Oklahoma said in their statement is that they will have a designated area, a dorm basically on campus where these student athletes that would maybe test positive would go, and then they would be treated there with full access to anything that they would need from OU's medical staff. Of course, they outlined all of the precautions they'll be taking from the sanitation standpoint, only having 10 or less people in a weight room at a time. But I just thought this part was very interesting. You can see it on your screen of saying how they would handle quarantining players that test positive for COVID-19.
So, Dan, it's a reminder that there has to be a plan because there's a risk. And we started the show this morning talking about professional athletes taking that risk. What are your thoughts on collegiates who are not getting paid to do this, taking some sort of risk?
Yeah, we're asking a lot of these college athletes. Now, I'm not a doctor, but it's important to state that everything we know about the data tells us that college kids aren't totally, they're some of the safest when it comes to this disease. They're not the most at risk. So that's important for us to understand that. But we're asking a ton of them in regards to that. If I was a parent, or even if I was a player, I'd not only want to know the protocol or the steps for a person who tests positive, but I would want to know how my son is going to be protected from that teammate who was tested positive. I want to know what they're going to do to make sure that, or give him the best chance that he doesn't. And also, I want to know this as a parent. Do I trust that coach in a pressure situation is going to follow protocol? When we get to a must-win game in college football or potentially the college football playoffs, do I trust that coach is going to follow the protocol that is set forth and that he will put my son's health at the premium over having him play in that football game?
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.